Dadnarok presents the Loki After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
Hey, we're back here for the final time for season 1 anyway. We got a confirmation of this episode. There'll actually be a Loki season 2. But yeah, Loki season 1 is over. 6th episode. Really did a big job as far as wrapping season 1 up in a nice little bow, but still leaving us with room to go other places.
Plenty of places.
Yeah. But before we start, we are Dadnarok. We have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel. I know we're broadcasting on Twitch and Facebook and whatnot. We're kind of all over, but we definitely appreciate you checking us out on YouTube. Just search Dadnarok. Go ahead and like and subscribe and comment. We love getting those comments on the under the videos.
And if you're watching live, comment on the actual live, and we'll interact with you. Right there and then.
That's right. We're fairly interactive. So if you make a comment here while we're live, we'll respond to you. But what do you think? So you had fairly big ideas and big thoughts and big feelings on this series, the first couple of episodes, and then it took a spill for you, halfway through. Where are you at as of right now at the end of season 1?
I still got to put it on the bottom. It's still at the bottom. Like for me, it goes, Mandalorian, WandaVision, and Mandalorian are kind of like. The only reason I'm giving Mandalorian the upper hand is because that's where my base fandom lays.
Yeah.
But then it goes, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and then it's Loki. I mean, it really wasn't even close. I mean, it was so fantastic at the beginning,
right?
And then it just like the wheel, in my opinion, the wheels fell off in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And this final episode, in my opinion, was phenomenal. Hands down, the best episode of Loki, and probably one of the best episodes amongst all of the actual shows themselves.
But it still landed. Low for you, even after a very satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, one great episode is not going to go ahead and redeem a full show, which had two duds, maybe even 3 duds in a series of 6 shows.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of there with you. I loved the ambition of this show. I think they lost the thread a little bit in the middle. It was rough there in some spots, as far as character motivations, especially around the Renslayer. And even though they did a good job with introducing, He Who Remains this episode, played by actor Jonathan Majors, he was very good. He plays, apparently, for those who don't know, he's going to be Kang the Conqueror going forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It did feel a little weird to kind of have him be the big baddie revealed at the very end, with only getting kind of little inklings and Easter eggs of the character throughout the rest of the show.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job with him. I mean, he did a great job. I'm looking forward to. I mean, the whole episode with him just being centered on him, like when they walked in, the castle, the door opens up and Miss Minutes shows up. What do you think of that whole interaction with Miss Minutes?
That was like a jump scare, dude. That was frightening. It was funny. Because I like Miss Minutes as a character. I think that's it's very funny. It's very comic booky. It's very cartoony for her to exist in this reality. And she was like, I don't know, she was real creepy. She was giving off creepy vibes the way she just popped out like that and scared Sylvie and Loki even.
You think she was being legit about them both being able to get back on the same timeline and basically be able to have what they wanted? And, Loki being able to kill Thanos.
Well, the question is whether or not, I'm just going to call him Kang, even though they don't really name him in this episode.
They never say Kang, but it's exactly what, I mean, there's even a point where he's holding up a version of himself and he says, I'm the Conqueror. Kang, the Conqueror.
Known by many names. Yeah. But whether or not this version of Kang would have let them, would have been good to his word and actually put them as he promised. Basically, Well, and we're jumping around this episode if you didn't know, but he promises both Sylvie and Loki. He's like, Loki, you can rule. You can have the Infinity Gauntlet with all the Infinity Stones. If you want that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sylvie, you can, I guess, be in peace and have all these happy memories and just, and you two can be together. And that was a big selling point for Loki, because Loki, he's being offered power, but he's come through a big character revolution here throughout this series, where what he really wanted was, good things for Sylvie and to possibly be with Sylvie going forward. And the Infinity Gauntlet is not as attractive as it used to be for him.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sylvia was real quick. She was like, you know what? That's just fiction.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
She's like, it's nothing doable.
Yeah.
It's all gonna be fake. It's not gonna be them writing their own story. It's still someone else writing their story for them.
Yeah. So, going into this episode, you and I agree that they had a lot to do. Like, as far as how they ended 5, we didn't get a ton as far as, plot progression. We knew that there was going to be a ton of stuff they'd have to get through in this episode, which they did. I mean, they did spend the entire episode kind of addressing, the plot threads of the last 5 episodes. We get Owen Wilson's character Mobius getting back to the TVA. He confronts Renslayer. They have a scene together. We see B-15, who essentially, she goes back. She takes the tempad, I guess, that Mobius had.
Yeah.
She goes back and to a point where I guess Renslayer, her life used to be at this high school. In 2018, before Renslayer started working for the TVA, just as a way to show that the other Minutemen that they're all variants. Even Renslayer had a life before the TVA, so that kind of leverages everybody to get back on their side of things. They're a bit disillusioned. They're like, I don't know what's going on, and they all kind of team up together. So now the TVA is kind of whole again, because we've got Mobius, B-15, and the Minutemen all kind of like, on the same page now, which was cool, because I always wanted the TVA to go on beyond Loki, because I think it's just like a cool concept. And I was like, I want Mobius to lead the TVA, and I want them to do it right. And he even says so in this episode when he has a scene with Renslayer. He's like, let's do it. Let's start it over again. Let's do it right this time.
Yeah.
But she's on a different mission.
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of looking, like, after the episode was over.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, because I heard there was some like inklings of Renslayer being connected to Kang. Yeah. And there's a point in the actual comics where it's she's a princess. And basically, Kang falls in love with her.
Yeah.
So it's Princess Renslayer. And then she dies and everything. He tries to bring her back. So I think they're going to do some type of... There's a connection that she's not aware of.
Right. She doesn't seem to be. Yeah, she doesn't seem to be aware of a connection.
Yeah. But he's aware of it.
Yeah, but she's wanting to find out. Like, that's her next goal in life, is to find out what the heck's going on with this He Who Remains. I think she has a better idea and understanding of who that is, beyond the robotic timekeepers.
Yeah.
She didn't seem very surprised when, they turned out to be robots.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So she had an inkling that there was somebody beyond them. But now she's, dedicating her time going forward to learn more. I'm wondering if she's going to appear in the new Ant-Man movie, since we know for sure that Kang, or at least a version of Kang the Conqueror with this actor, Jonathan Majors, is going to be in the new Ant-Man movie coming out this year or next year. I don't even know the timeline, but I'm wondering if she'll show up.
I've seen what you did there.
Do you think she'll show up in the Ant-Man movie?
Honestly, I hope not. I mean, I want them to be able to connect the shows and things.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to interweave them too much when there's still a lot of questions to be answered within this show.
Yeah, true.
Like, I don't want them to start branching out and have other questions with the same character, but now it's within different like IPs within Marvel.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they've been doing it pretty good so far, where you can probably watch the movies without being so dependent on the Disney Plus series. Although we have yet to see how this finale of Loki kind of spills into the actual movies that we have coming out next. Because the only other show that we have, or shows that we have coming out on Disney Plus, we've got the What If series, which I think is really funny and really, I mean, perfect timing. as far as if you're going to look into different versions of, different multiverses, different versions
Yeah.
of how things play out in the in the Marvel universe. We get T'Challa taking on Star-Lord's role. We've got Peggy Carter taking on the Captain American role, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Basically everything mixed up. I mean, this pretty much, I'd be surprised if they didn't use this as a way to jump into that storyline.
Oh, this was planned. I mean,
Yeah.
this was calculated to give you an idea of like what things could be in other timelines.
Exactly. And then after that, we have the Hawkeye show, which I seriously doubt Hawkeye is going to have these big cosmic concepts going for it. It's going to be, adventures of an archer and spy thriller kind of stuff. But yeah, we'll see where the movies go from here. So as far as an episode, you mentioned that this is kind of a big one. A big reveal here with quote unquote Kang the Conqueror. And really let's see how he was introduced.
Not what you were expecting, hmm? You're just a man. Flesh and blood? Don't tell me I'm a disappointment.
No. Just a little bit easier to kill.
So flesh and blood, eating an apple, picking his nose, yet he's so powerful that he's, getting the better easily over these two very powerful beings. This is a great way to present this character, because honestly, Kang the Conqueror is a fairly, I don't know, I wouldn't call him boring, but he's a mustache twirling bad guy in the comics. Like, there's not a ton of depth to him. And they've done Thanos so well already, where they gave Thanos a lot of depth, even though he had a lot of the same motivations that he does in the comics. They gave Thanos such a presence with Josh Brolin's performance, everything. It was like perfect as far as how the Infinity Wars played out. So you couldn't do that same thing though, as far as just the stoic, I am King the Conqueror and I will, you know what I mean? You just couldn't do that a second time, because it would just feel like a repeat of Thanos. So for them to go this route, I thought it was a nice surprise. It was good.
Yeah, no, it was intriguing. I mean, the minute he came on the screen, the elevator opens and he starts talking, it's like it had me. Like,
yeah,
in past episodes, I had my phone up or I had something else going on, and I would look away. I was locked
right
on the screen from when he was talking. Like, I was hoping it was going to be Kang. I would have been furious, honestly, if it was a Loki variant.
Yeah,
I'd have been mad. I may have shut it off.
A lot of folks thought that it was going to be, and thematically, it probably would have made sense in the Loki show to have, a Loki variant that we've already been introduced to be the big baddie. But yeah, I am glad they went this way too. Yeah.
So when he gets them in there, and let's go to my office.
Right.
So they're in the elevator, and that's where we see the scene what we just watched, and they're going back and forth. And I love the fact he's just there, has his back turned to both of them, doesn't care. I mean, like, eating his apple, and he's like, he knows exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And
that's what I like about it. I think Jonathan Majors played this role with a great balance, because there's no doubt that this guy is super powerful, but he doesn't present himself that way. He just does what he needs to do in the moment to keep talking to these two people that are, mad at him. They want to kill him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's almost acting as though he's like happy to have guests. And he's like, oh, I get to like talk and interact with folks. He's probably a little lonely up there in the castle at the end of time.
Yeah. All he's been talking to is Miss Minutes, and he's getting freaked out that she's still calling him the one who remains.
And later in the episode, when Loki and Sylvie are fighting, he's watching it like he's watching a TV show, and they kiss and they fight, and he's just like, he's really invested. He's into it. It's like he's watching characters, on a TV show, like we're watching. I could really identify with Kang the Conqueror there. But yeah, I thought it was pitch perfect as far as how you present, this new villain for the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, it was between that and the tone and everything of the show, the colors, the way that it was all lit, it was all dramatic. It was very easy to focus on what was going on.
Right.
There was no distraction going on. There was no like explosions or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen all of a sudden the back and forth between Loki and Sylvie getting ready to happen, and then when that takes place, it was just all built perfectly. There was not a moment in it where I was like, okay, I didn't feel that.
Yeah.
Like it didn't resonate. I felt like everything that was said, everything that Kang said, everything about his past, the whole history of the timeline, everything that he was dealing with, it all made sense in the sense of the show.
Yeah, it did. And you and I have even talked about how some of our favorite scenes of this show so far were just the scenes of Loki sitting across a table with Mobius, just discussing, Loki's past and his intentions going forward.
Yeah.
Those were some of the meatier, cooler parts of the show so far. And once again, here in this episode, some of the best parts are just, characters sitting across the table from one another, storytelling and catching us up on real events and what's led up to that point. And we were totally invested. I mean, Jonathan Majors really carried this episode. He did a lot of exposition, a lot of talking. But I was invested. I wasn't bored. I was like, I was eating it up.
I was pumped. I was ready to go. I was like, you know what? You gave me something now. But what do you think of a show like this introducing the next big bad guy?
Well, I'm okay with it because I'm a consumer of all of it. So, it doesn't matter to me. A Marvel series or a Marvel movie, I'm watching it either way. So I'm following the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it doesn't matter to me. But it would affect the people that are just, they don't check out Disney Plus shows, or when they do, I was reading online stuff about WandaVision earlier today, and people were like, "Oh, I didn't watch the video because I don't want spoilers." So it's like, I mean, that show's been out for months and months. So like, you're either interested in watching something or you're not. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just one of those things. It depends also on how they go about it. This case in particular, they introduced Kang, or this character, he who survived or he who remains.
He remains, yeah.
The actor who's going to portray the character going forward in movies like Ant-Man. But at the same time, because we're dealing with variants and different interpretations and versions of this character from different universes, you could you don't have to lean on that too heavy. So the character that we were introduced to this time may not necessarily be like the same kind of character that we see in the Ant-Man movie. He may be a totally different version. He may talk differently, have different motivations, all that kind of stuff. So I think for here it works, and I think the folks that haven't seen Loki and they step in the theater to see Ant-Man won't be too lost. I think they've done enough. I think Marvel will know enough to handle that properly. But yeah, I get the point. But for me, it just doesn't, because I'll watch all of it.
Well, obviously I'm along for the ride as well.
Yeah.
No, I had no issue with it. I don't know, like the whole show. I don't know if the show earned the payoff of the big baddie. And
right.
I don't even know if the big bad was actually even necessary. I think they brought him in mainly for an explanation. They basically ended the show, the series, not series, but the season, the same way they opened it. They ended it with an explanation of who Kang is, and they started it with an explanation of what the timelines were.
Right.
So they bookended, exactly what the show is by two different explanations of what we were going forward, and now again what we're going to have going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's fair. And honestly, if I had an issue with Kang's story here, is that I don't think it was all that different from the story that was already presented to us in cartoon form in the first episode. Like, you just replace the timekeepers with this version of Kang, and it's kind of the same story. Like, there was a multiverse. They had a war, and this guy decided, he was able to, I guess, smush the different timelines together into one. And the story isn't that dissimilar from what really happened, according to this guy.
He just had a monster, the Elioth, that was able to help him with it.
Yeah, right. So I don't get the whole timekeepers thing. I don't get the whole, what's with all this mystery and smoke and mirrors in this story? Like, because it was so, similar to the story that actually happened, why wouldn't you just be honest with the TVA? Like, look, I am this scientist from the 31st century. I ran into this thing. Just go about the whole story that you just told to Loki and Sylvie. And I'm sure Renslayer and Mobius and these people at TVA would still be like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, I can get on board with that. So that doesn't make sense to me as far as why he decided to lie.
Unless it's a crock.
That's true too.
Unless what he was selling them, wasn't what really took place.
And Sylvie even calls that out. She's like, unless you're lying to us, and he can't deny it. He's like, yeah, unless I'm lying to you. It's like, you either believe me or you don't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a theme for this whole show, because that's what the Lokis have had to run into this entire time too, because of the characters that they are. Could be lying to us.
Well, then Loki was like, that's what I do. And I believe him.
Right.
So that was like, and that's when basically the whole battle started. They started, going at each other. I should never have trusted you.
Yeah.
They're fighting, and then the kiss took place. I was like, okay, that's just kind of.
It was quick. It was quick.
I could have taken her or leaving.
It was quick, and she used that kiss as a distraction to send him through a portal and get him away from her, so she could complete her mission. So at least there was that part of it too.
Yeah, she did too. But you know what? Let's watch a little bit of a clip of we've been talking about the explanation, and this is he who remains explanation.
Yeah.
However, not every version of me was so pure of heart. Some of us, new worlds meant only one thing: new lands to be conquered. The peace between realities erupted into all-out war, each variant fighting to preserve their universe and annihilate the others.
Yeah, I love that. I love just the walkthrough, just a little change in shape thing on is done the desk, just little effects like that. I thought helped the storytelling dramatically.
Yeah,
from when he was like talking about how he figured it out, then the same person and the other timelines were all figuring it out at the same time, and they were sharing technologies and like he even said there, not all of them were as pure as heart as he was. Is he the original one? Is he a different one? Which one is he that we're speaking with? And that's a tricky thing.
Exactly. And he puts it out there like, you could kill me, but honestly, I'm the only thing keeping my variants from coming back through, and the worst versions of me are going to come out and you're going to have to deal with them. So it's like, you may think I'm evil, but I guarantee you I'm the lesser of many other evils. So what do you do at that point? And Loki, as you mentioned earlier, Loki bought into it and Sylvie didn't.
Yeah, no. And like you said, Sylvie kissed, then she opened up one of those doors and kicked him back into the TVA. And I'm like, hold on, what? That's when I was like, hold on, what's going on? Like, okay, he's back there now. He's kind of doing the pouty thing, just sitting with his hands down, like, okay, I'm not used to losing.
And we look at the graphical representation of the timeline on that little screen they've been looking at with the red lines. We got it up above us here. See it? I put it up there.
Yep.
But we just see, even more branched off than that is. Just like it's just exploded with branching now, and to a point where it's just like too late for them to do anything about it. And we see at first we see our Mobius and our B-15 kind of looking at this thing and being, it's saying to each other, it's too late to turn back now. And, B-15 was like, well, who said anything about turning back? Like they're ready to embrace whatever they have coming at them now.
Yeah. What's
as
next?
Far as their TVA. But Loki, I guess, is in a different TVA. He gets sent back through that portal. He snaps out of him, being mopey. And then he's like, okay, we got to do something because I know what's coming and I got to warn Mobius. So he runs up to Mobius and B-15, but it's not our Mobius and B-15.
No, not even close. Like, okay, who are you? Well, what do you say? Who are you, analyst, or what's your name or something like that?
They don't even recognize him as a Loki. So, which threw me off because it's like, wouldn't they reckon if Loki looked like Tom Hiddleston in their universe, wouldn't they like know who the heck this is? But they don't even recognize him at all.
Yeah, maybe his variant wasn't a problem within their timeline.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it could be. That was interesting. And Loki, he's, he turns from them and he looks at this big statue, and it's no longer these three timekeepers, but it's Kang himself in the likeness of Jonathan Majors. I guess in this timeline, he didn't care to make up a story, and he was just like, hey, I'm Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that was kind of like, yeah. See, now this is where I'm concerned. We're going to be all over the map.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be hard to keep a story straight or tell a cohesive story when you're gonna be working like layers upon layers upon layers. You know, it's like which character are we dealing with here? This
It's going
is
to be
where
a
I'm getting
multiverse
worried.
of madness.
You can smack the multiverse into one timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm super excited because this is exactly what I wanted as far as the multiverse and the timelines, and because I knew that this is something that Spider-Man's going to be dealing with, Doctor Strange going to be dealing with. This is I mean, I don't know if you don't introduce the X-Men and the Fantastic Four somehow branching out of this storyline. I don't know how the heck you do it. Like, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. Now I think I was reading there's some type of connection between Reed Richards and one of the variants of Kang.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that, and there's so many. It's just like I said. I'm just concerned that they're going to get too deep into it. I want them to pick one cohesive storyline, and stick with it. Now they use the comics as like information, kind of a guide, but they don't use them as a like. Wow, what's it? What's what I'm looking for?
It's not like a Bible. Like they
Yes.
basically take the big broad strokes of these stories and put them out there, but they also add their own flares to a lot of these things. Just like the way that they've changed Kang the Conqueror's character in this episode. He's definitely different than we've seen him in the comics before, and they're usually very good about how they spin these characters and these stories. But I think we're in good hands. I can hear your concerns because this is a lot to. I mean, this is a lot. This is a bigger predicament than we've ever run into as far as the MCU movies thus far. So it's like, how are they going to be able to, I guess, run with this storyline through Ant-Man and the Quantumania? I love that title. Yeah. The Spider-Man movie, the Doctor Strange movie, who we know are going to touch on these concepts. And now with the added cog of Loki season 2, how the heck is that going to play into events going forward? Like, is it going to take off right from here, or is it going to take off depending on the events that happen in those movies? So yeah, I don't know, but like everything, I trust Kevin Feige and what he's able to do.
The more I think of, the more I believe. Like I've leaned into this a little earlier when we were in our after shows, but I believe this is the real reason the Eternals are showing up.
Yeah.
Because there's a point in the actual like Kang's history where Kang goes to, I think it's Thor, and wants Thor to go ahead and get his I can't remember the name of the axe.
Oh, Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker. He wants Stormbreaker to be enchanted to be able to break like an internal type of armor. And Odin refuses to. He won't do it. And they find a way to go ahead and do it. And the only ones that wear that armor would be the Eternals. So if they would mix in, Thor, the Eternals, I read way too much today. Like I wanted to do my homework before we came on, and I think I went into little like overload. There's so much source material.
I keep forgetting about Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, that's another one. Does Loki show up in the new Thor movie? Like, we have so much that we could like go like from this story, from Loki's ending here. There's so many different directions that we can spin into as far as what we know is coming our way as far as the MCU. It's crazy. Oh,
excuse me, man. I'm just getting over being sick. So as a whole, okay, so we kind of went over this whole thing. I kind of jotted down a few questions.
Okay.
What happens to Sylvie now? She's back. She just stabbed Kang, or the version of Kang, or the he who no longer remains.
Yeah.
She's in the castle. Essentially, Miss Minutes is still there.
Right.
Where do you see her going forward?
I think Ms. Minutes just comes in that room shocked, and Ms. Minutes just suffocates her. And that's the end of Sylvie. No, I don't know. We live her in a place where she's kind of like, Loki warned her against this. Like, hey, if you go through with this, it's just going to leave you empty. Like, this is not going to do anything for you. And she goes through with it anyway because she's just driven to complete her mission. And that's pretty much where we leave her. I mean, this Kang is dead, and she's just kind of slumped over on the floor. She doesn't look very relieved or happy. She just kind of looks like resigned to her fate.
Yeah, almost kind of like she was getting ready to break down.
Yeah,
she finally achieved what she's been trying to do for so long.
Right.
And now it's now what?
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you think we'll see Sylvie in anything up beyond this point besides Loki season 2? Do you think she'll appear in any of these movies?
I don't think so. I think the only people that we're going to see outside of this series would be Loki, maybe Morbius, and Kang.
Right.
Those three. And we may, if they play with Kang's character long enough, we may see Renslayer.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the history they have, with that character. But I mean, they can't. There's so much going on. They gotta, just like they did with Thanos. They've got to build.
Right.
If they're gonna make him the next bad guy, we can't just have a flash in the pan bad guy after having Thanos.
Yes. Yeah, you can't do that to a character that's this big. He's got to be around at least for a little bit, I think. This character.
All the source material I was reading, he whoops the crap out of the Avengers time and time and time again.
Right.
So they never really defeat him. They fight side by side with him at times, but they never defeat him. Yeah,
and he's a big villain. He's an MC. Well, I was going to say MCU villain. He is a Marvel Comics villain in the same vein that Thanos is. Not just an Avengers villain, not just a Fantastic Four villain, not just an X-Men villain. He's a villain for the entire universe. So you should give him that respect.
yeah. You can't just kind of build him up and throw him away.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, what now? What now with the timeline? We're seeing it branch out. We're seeing it basically explode.
Yeah.
Or what timeline? Or when we come back to it, what timeline are we in? What timeline is the show predominantly going to take place in? Or are we going to see those tent pads and it's going to be jumping from timeline to timeline?
That's a great question. I think. Well, in the What If series, the cartoon, the animated series, we're going to see all the timelines. They're going to throw a bunch of timelines at us. As far as the movies proper, I feel like you have to stay in our timeline just for clarity's sake. At least you have to start the story there, and maybe somewhere along the way, halfway through Doctor Strange, or somewhere in the Spider-Man story, you're going to see these different timelines. I mean, people keep saying that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and all these different
over and over again
are going to be in the new Spider-Man movie, and this is the way that you would do it. I think as for clarity's sake and for bringing the audience along, you have to start in our timeline that we know, but it's going to branch out. We're going to see variations, I think.
Yeah, it's got to make sense. And if people aren't watching, what we're watching, just branching off right out the gate, you're gonna alienate a lot of people.
You have to make it make sense in that movie. You can't just start out going crazy from the first minute in these movies that come out.
And I'm really, I want to see how they do that.
Yeah.
Like how do they figure this out? There's so much that we just got to see on what they do.
Right.
There's really now we're in a hurry up and wait. We knew Loki was going to set off some weird events, and sure enough, it did. But how are they going to go and play into? I think Ant-Man, honestly, in Quantumania, may be the first one that really, because he's the one that really dealt with time travel to start with. Within the
Endgame, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how they kind of get that their hands tied around that. Hands tied around that?
Their heads, I don't know. But Doctor Strange, too. I mean, you can't forget about, Doctor Strange is, he's done it before. As far as an explainer, a hero that can sit down with the audience and be like, okay, this is what's going on and this is how I need to help. Doctor Strange is the perfect guy to explain things to us. You ain't going to get that from Ant-Man or Spider-Man. Spider-Man's just going to be like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, Spider-Man's like, I'm out.
Yeah, Doctor Strange will be able to give us a lecture on everything.
Mr. Stark.
I don't feel so good.
Oh man. But let me see what's next with the TVA.
I don't know, because now we have a couple different. We have multiple TVAs. Apparently, we've got the one that Loki's in now, where they don't even know Loki, and we've got the Mobius and B-15 that we knew and grew to love here in this season. I don't know. My hope, like I mentioned before, is that we see a TVA that's realized that Loki wants to continue the TVA and do the good work that they do, but in a better way.
Not so. I'm
Essentially,
going to prune you.
yeah, not just so clandestine and secretive and I don't know, because I like that character and I like Owen Wilson's portrayal of that character,
Yeah.
and I'd like to.
Oh,
see
we're
more
not
of
done
it.
with Morbius by any
No.
means.
Yeah, we'll keep seeing him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I like that because we know how important the actual TVA is within the comics. I mean, they play a big part. I mean, that's a big. I think we're going to see them with She-Hulk. I think we very well see them with Fantastic Four. There's a lot of things that they've actually been involved with. So
they're a character in a group that could just pop into anything. You could just pop it into any story because that's kind of what they do.
Yeah, it's kind of like they show up with the badge. Hey, you know what? You violated this. You're coming with me. How do you answer these charges?
They're like the Men in Black with time instead of aliens.
Yeah, then they'll hit you with a flash bomb right now. I didn't forget everything.
The neuralizer.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah. Oh man, I am more up on the show now than I was for a while.
Yeah, you hit a slump there in the middle where you're like, I don't know, man.
It was like Janessa stopped watching it after episode 2. I know other people stopped watching. I know many people that stopped watching it after episode 2 because they didn't care. They didn't get it. It was too slow. Whatever the reasoning was, and I was like, I gotta push through. I gotta because I feel like this is gonna be huge for a lot of reasons, and yeah, it stuck. This season stuck the landing for me.
I think so too. Yeah. It did everything that I was hoping and expecting it would as far as setting up the next stories within the MCU, which now I can't wait for, man. I mean, we got the Eternals, we got Shang-Chi, which are going to maybe touch on these things a little bit. Shang-Chi maybe a little bit less. But then going forward, the real good stuff with I think Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness is what I'm looking forward to the most. Just because I think there's going to be a lot of this stuff, and we know that Wanda's going to be big in it, and coming off WandaVision was just fantastic. So that's the one I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, we've got good stuff coming our way.
Did you hear Fahey's teasing of Agnetha popping up maybe at some point, or not popping up? Or it's like
she has to. She has to.
We'll see her again, or we may not see her again. We may see her sooner than you think we'll see her. I mean, he was really just messing with people.
Well, here's the thing. Here's something that's maybe not necessarily Loki related, but we know that Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character from Falcon and Winter Soldier, she's basically starting her own Avengers team, like a Suicide Squad style Avengers team, starting with John Walker's Captain America, U.S. Agent. is going to be, in it. I think maybe Agatha gets recruited to that, to be like their magic user. She could definitely, she's already recruited. I don't know if you saw it, but the post-credit scenes, Black Widow, she popped up in the post-credit scene of Black Widow, and she's recruited Black Widow's sister to be a part of this team. So she's doing a Nick Fury, but with the oddballs.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean,
we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna hold my head too high for that, but
right.
Who knows? We'll see what happens with it. But
doesn't sound like you're very thrilled by that idea.
I can't stand Walker. I don't want to see any more Walker.
I understand.
I wouldn't mind if they threw him out the window and he got hit by a semi and it was over. I mean, it was. I mean, that was my feeling on his character. I mean, and they did. That's exactly how they wanted me to feel. We're way off Loki now.
Yeah, we're way off Loki. Yeah.
But are you looking forward to Loki season 2 now? Because the post-credit scene didn't give us anything worth watching besides season 2 stamp.
Yes, I'm curious as to when season 2 of Loki is going to be. Like, is it going to premiere, June, July of 2022? Is it going to be that good, because Disney Plus has been like that for The Mandalorian, where it's been pretty consistent, one season a year. Or are we going to have to wait even longer? Are we going to have to wait until this slate of Marvel movies have come out before they continue the story in season 2? So that's what I'm curious about, is when it's actually going to premiere and at what point in the story is it going to take place.
Well, right now they're kind of teetering. Right now they're doing Star Wars, and then it's been all MCU. And then Star Wars is all going to come back with Book of Boba Fett. You're going to have Ahsoka. You're going to have Acolyte. The list goes on and on.
Right.
So at what point are they going to pause the Star Wars stuff and throw this stuff back in? Or are they going to go ahead and have them run at the same time? But instead of having them drop, say, both on Wednesdays, have one drop Wednesday, one drop Friday.
Can you imagine if we had a Star Wars show and a Marvel show running at the same time? You and I would be busy.
Spectacular.
It would be good, but yeah.
We'd have to figure out which one is higher precedent.
Right, true. If it came down to it between a Star Wars show and Hawkeye, I think I'd have to go with the Star Wars show.
Oh, easily.
No offense, Hawkeye.
Yeah. But guys, if you're watching, let us know what you think. I mean, we love seeing comments. We love anything that goes in, over on YouTube with a thumbs up, with a comment. We respond back pretty quickly because, it's fun to see what you guys think, and if you guys call us out on anything that we just completely missed.
Yeah, did we miss anything? I mean, how do you feel about the reveals of this episode? How do you feel about season 1 as a whole? Are you excited about a season 2? Or talk about the other things that are coming out. We already talked a lot about Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, all the stuff that's coming our way, the Eternals. So, drop us a like, drop us a comment over on YouTube. We'd really love to hear from you.
Yeah, guys. And going forward, this is our last show for Loki this season. Not Friday, but the following Friday, we are big Ted Lasso guys.
Oh, yeah.
On Apple TV, Ted Lasso is starting, and we can't wait. So the Loki after show will then morph into the Ted Lasso after show.
Pretty different, but yeah, Ted Lasso was a big surprise hit last year on Apple TV Plus, and we can't wait to dive into season 2. So we're both looking forward to that later this month.
It's always gonna be nice to to go ahead and laugh at something really funny or just awkward. Okay, guys. Well, you know what? I'm just go ahead and say, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along for the ride here with the Loki after show. And until next time, we'll say, keep it cheesy.
We'll see ya.